Good evening and welcome to the 19th hole live on In Between Media. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to In Between Media on YouTube. 19th hole live, we're going to cover the Honda Classic. We're headed from the West Coast swing into the Florida swing. But first, before we get to two more elevated events, we got to do a non-elevated event at PGA National, a brutal course with a terrible field. However, there's still money to be made here, and we're going to give you the edges to do that. We're going to sip some whiskey too. Thanks for joining us. Here is the 19th hole live. So yeah, as I mentioned, Honda Classic, not an elevated event. We just got two of those back to back with amazing fields, all the top golfers in the world, and none of that is the case here at the Honda Classic in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. It's somewhere in Florida.
Palm Beach Gardens. Yeah, you nailed it.
Nailed it. Woo! So only top golfer in the world in this place is Sungjae Im. There's a bunch of other guys that are kind of used to be in the top golfer conversation, or they're getting closer, inching closer. But we have two more elevated events right after this. So why are we playing the Honda Classic, Conor? Is it just because we're spoiled rotten and we're going to throw a fit because there's not too many big names at this tournament? But it's more, I think it's more just by comparison of what we've dealt with the last couple of weeks with strong fields.
I mean, I think you're trying to romanticize it a little bit, but
I'm more worried about this course because it's brutal.
Yeah, the course is brutal. The talent, just be honest, man. The talent is not great.
No.
And why are we playing? Because we do this every week.
We're junkies.
It's a compulsion. What do you want?
It's so much fun, and we are winning. We are giving people winning advice. Pretty much everybody who watches the show, listens to the stuff, reads our stuff that we write. They're winning money. We're winning money. So if we're winning money, and you guys are watching us or listening to us or reading our stuff, there's no way you're not winning money, because if you're combining us two, I know you're winning a lot of money, because we've been hitting on some winners. Like, it kind of seems like every other week one of us picks the outright winner. Unfortunately, last week the outright winner was a guy that we're dummy fading all year because his odds just suck. John Rahm, congrats, you're incredible. We have nothing bad to say about you. We just hate when you win because we can't bet you at 6.5 to 1. Just sorry, you're not Tiger Woods, and even though your last 7 events has been Tiger-esque, it's hurting us in the bankroll, even though we did hit on some top 5s and top 10s in spite of John Rahm's excellence.
Yeah, I mean, if I had a bankroll where I was dropping 5 and 6 digit, bets, I guess John Rahm, pretty good bet. But
our Canadian friend Royal Slade tripled his money last week. You're welcome.
See, yeah, proof positive.
Yeah.
There are some good
Patrick. I think there was a Patrick Cantlay bet in there too, because he was 2 of my 3 cashing tickets.
Yeah, we'll get to it, but I mean, obviously, dude. I mean, we had a lot of good calls in there. I think we did the thing that most more amateur level or just lower unit bettors are going to do. Like, John Rahm really had no value as far as bets were concerned. I mean, you weren't going to be able to make enough money, even with the risk. Like, there was nothing set in stone that said John Rahm was going to win. I think we all were fairly sure that he was gonna, or at least be in contention. But yeah, the type of money that us common folk got to lay down to make a profit on John Rahm, it's tough to do it for a lot of us.
And at the same time, you kind of want to do it because of how hot he's been, how consistent he's been, regardless of where they're playing, regardless of how strong the field is. The guy just keeps winning. he keeps showing up at the top of the leaderboard every single week. And maybe we're the dumb ones for fading him because he has been a sure thing the last 7 events that he's played in. So are we the dummies here for fading him? But I think if we're still making money by fading him, then I think we're still on the right track because he's eventually going to cool off. There's no guarantee that this could even continue past where it already has gone. And I do feel like that we're kind of finally entering a part of the season where everything kind of changes. John Rahm dominates Southern California courses. We know this to be a fact after the last 3 seasons, where John Rahm loves himself some West Coast swing, and the Florida swing with the Bermuda greens that were getting started. It kind of unleashes a whole different prototype of golfer that does well in Florida and on the East Coast, in the Southeast, especially where the Bermuda is growing out thick and lush. You have more target golf than on the West Coast. I think that we're gonna do a lot better on the Florida swing because we kind of have the prototype nailed. We definitely did last year at the Honda Classic. Before we get into the Honda Classic, though, I want to spin it back reluctantly because of how bad it was for me on the DFS front. Let's spin it back to last week at the what did we play last week? It was so bad. Riviera, yeah, Riviera was great for you.
I for one am loving this segment nowadays.
And I'm looking here at the overlay for the matchup, and it's aptly named Both Sucks. And it's true. 3 of my guys missed the cut. Keegan Bradley, Taylor Montgomery, KH Lee all missed the cut. They all 3 of those guys had one okay round and one horrendous round that killed them. Jason Day was one of the guys that cashed for me on the betting side. Same with Cantley. And then Shoffley hung in there for a while. Didn't have enough birdies on the weekend. Made some big numbers too to mix in, and just I had no chance. And you didn't do great this week because all the guys that made the cut were mostly not in contention. But my God, this is not close. Like, you had 5 out of 6 make the cut. I had 3 out of 6. It's amazing you only beat me by 40 because I have no idea how that happens. But yeah, this is atrocious DFS play right here.
Oh, dude. And the funniest part about it is it like, this isn't even like a representation of like the other lineups I played. Like, this was one of the lineups that I knew I was going to be different than you with this lineup, which is part of why I played it. But yeah,
I was ecstatic about my lineup going into the week. How bad this is.
I mean, I looked at this and I was like, McElroy, Thomas. I was really high on Fowler. I came on to Fleetwood late, which ended up actually working out in my favor in a lot of lineups. And Dietrich is somebody that I have played. Dietrich and Buckley both are guys I've been playing literally every week so far this season.
Yep, and I don't think it's going to change this week because I'm on both of those guys this week.
Absolutely not. But I mean, I will say, this lineup when I submitted it, like, absolutely, like, felt confident in it. But it was one of my worst lineups out of the 30 or so that
it had to be
created.
372 wasn't cashing anywhere else.
No. Shouldn't have cashed against you. Shit. I only beaten you by 40 points.
and I only had 3 out of 6.
Yeah, dude. Bad. Just not proud of that. You should. I'm glad you got that down so quickly. We should definitely. Hopefully nobody screenshot.
Avert your eyes.
Yeah.
NS not safe for work. What are you drinking, Conor?
I am drinking a little bit of Amador, a little double barrel. Yeah. So cool. It's actually a pretty cool whiskey. They start it in just, your typical white oak bourbon barrels, and then they actually finish it in Chardonnay wine barrels. So it's kind of
Amador. That's from NorCal, is it not? Is that a NorCal bourbon?
I think that's where it's
from. There's a county here. Yeah, there's a county here called Amador County, and it's a lot of wine country around it.
I'm 99% sure you're right, and I knew you were going to ask me. I grabbed this right before we got on air, and I was like,
It doesn't say on the damn label. You can put your spectacles on.
I'm reading it. I mean, it tells me a lot of really great things about the notes of the whiskey. Would you like to hear about those? But
sure. Yeah.
No, it's a creamy mouthfeel, brown sugar, vanilla, caramel, all of your standard things. But it specifically calls out that it is delightful in a Manhattan.
Oh, that's my favorite cocktail too.
But yeah, no,
Amador.
It's a tasty whiskey. It's not the first one I've had that's finished in Chardonnay barrels. The Chardonnay barrels give it a little bit of butter, mouth smoothness, I think. It's not a crazy expensive bottle either if you can find it. I think I paid maybe $45, $50 for it.
Yep. All right. So Amador whiskey is a collaboration between Kentucky and Napa. So yes, it is a NorCal product. Woo!
Look at
you didn't even know you were going to do the shout out NorCal.
I got to get you one every week. I'll try and find a way to get you some NorCal love next week too. Now that we're far from your native land.
However, last year at the Honda Classic, Kurt Kitayama did get third place. So
obviously, putting didn't matter.
No, it didn't. It should matter. In most years, it does matter, but it's more about iron play, proximity, and all that. We'll get over that. But I'm drinking Michter's American. It's a classic. Not technically a bourbon because it's got a blend of different American whiskeys, but it's so good. So good. If you haven't had Michter's small batch unblended American whiskey, it's fantastic. And no, you can't call it a bourbon because it's not one, but it's pretty damn good. It's just a couple percentage points off of the mash bill. It's got less than 50% corn. So there you go. That's your whiskey lesson is a bourbon has to be at least half corn.
It's what is it? It's a little higher rye, right? Michter's is?
Yeah. It's 48 corn and then a higher rye bill. Yeah.
Yeah. All the Michter's I've ever had are pretty damn good. I'll say that. It's good whiskey.
That'd be my favorite. They have a good rye too, though. So, what do you say we move away from Riviera because it was a disaster?
I did want to give you a little bit of credit though. Last week, I mean, you were hyped up on Homa, and I was off Homa.
And I didn't bet Homa, but I played him in DFS.
But you had some good feels towards Homa, and there were some people that we got some messages about it that did take advantage of the Homa love that you were showing. So you barely missed.
I just loved his price. He was $9,700 last week, and that didn't make any sense to me because he was like a full $1,000 cheaper than the other top guys that were just as hot as he was. And I was just like, he's not getting chalk. I didn't understand why he wasn't getting chalk, and he was so cheap for what he was doing at that time. And of course, he almost won that damn tournament. If Rahm didn't bounce that ball off the grandstand for an eagle on Friday, this is a whole different tournament.
Was that not unreal? Just unbelievable.
Well, that's the thing about Rahm is he's one of the 3 best golfers in the world, and he's incredibly lucky on top of it. It's not fair. A guy that good does not need to be lucky, but he is.
No, not at all. He should be the anti. He should be unlucky. But
yeah,
I did think too that what was crazy as far as betting went and as far as lineup construction went, we literally called out every single solitary dude that was 5 under with a T20 or better.
Yep.
And that goes back to your point. We were all over it. We just did.
Yeah, we had Riv covered. I cashed the Jason Day top 10 ticket. I cashed the Cantlay top 5 and top 10 tickets. That's honing in, and when you can still pull a profit despite not picking an outright winner, that I have a feeling that's going to keep going all year, where we're going to have everything surrounded. Even if we don't hit the outright winner, we're still going to make money because we're so locked in on the course types, the types of golfers that are matching up well with it. Just recent trends, that's what I have your help with the recent trends. You look more of a inner scope of the last 24, 36 rounds. I look a little broader than you do, but that's what helps us both hone in on who's hot, who's going to play well on these types of courses. And so far, it's up. We're winning.
Well, yeah, and you subtract that John Rahm lucky eagle off the grandstands too, and we also nailed the winning score too. So
We
yeah,
did.
we are dialed, and we're just
Dialed in.
telling you big things. One of these weeks we're putting it all together, and Bo and I will have to take a week off to go on a vacation somewhere together.
Tahiti.
Yeah, not non-romantic, just like a bros trip.
Totally platonic.
Just a bros
golf
trip.
clubs shipped there beforehand. All right, so let's hit our DFS segment. This is No Trunk Slam.
The club as well. This would be a wrestling slam.
So how about we do better at DFS this week, just for old time's sake? I'm sick of getting the 3 of the guys in the top 5, and then the other 3 guys that I thought were going to do great just missed the cut completely. Thanks, Keegan Bradley. You completely nuked all my lineups single-handedly. It was awesome. Love that about you.
I don't do this often. Normally, I reread the show notes from the previous year, but
it was rough.
I actually sat through you and I talking through this tournament last year. And I'll
hate yourself? Do you actually hate yourself?
I'll say this. I think the best thing we did last year was make a margarita.
It was bad.
So yeah, we're gonna do a little better this year. I think we've gotten better, so we're gonna do better.
Oh yeah. No doubt. I wasn't even on Kitayama last year when he got 3rd place. It was as a result of this finish at the Honda Classic. They kind of put me on him more and take him more seriously for the rest of the season.
Well, they threatened to take away your NorCal card. So, but no, yeah. So break down the course real quick. Bo's already talked about it. This place is nasty tough. Palm Beach, Florida. Palm Beach Garden, Florida, I think.
They don't even know when they're
Florida. PGA National, par 70, about 7,125 yards. They can stretch
nasty 7,100 though. My God, water everywhere.
A little bit. They can get it back to about 7,250. I think is the max they can put it out to. Which whatever doesn't really matter. It is Bermuda grass. It's your southeastern type of Bermuda though, so a little bit different than what these guys have been seeing over the course of the last few weeks. It's kind of an odd course in terms of how penalized you can be for any kind of wayward shot. You got 13, 14 holes have water firmly in play. You literally got more bunkers than probably the last 5 courses combined on this course. I think there's
Riviera famously doesn't have any water, and the only bunkers were like fairway bunkers or like off to the runway areas where if you messed up a chip, it would roll into a bunker. Here, if you miss the water, you still find a bunker. It's wild. There's 65 bunkers on this course.
And I think it's actually more than that. I've seen more than that in a few accountings of it. Obviously somebody went out and walked it and counted it, but wasn't I. So, but suffice it to say, there's a shitload of water and a ton of sand. So
everywhere. So
plenty of trouble to be found.
And forced landing areas, which are my favorite.
Yeah, and it truly is. And we talked about it a lot last year when we were breaking down this course, is that there are a lot of awkward spots that guys are gonna be hitting to. And historically, it really is the guys that are a little bit better at target golf, a little bit better at being able to club down, play the right club, not trying to overpower shots.
Thinking your way around the course, one shot at a time.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a thinking man's golf course, which I thoroughly enjoy. The greens here, actually, if you look at it statistically, are not that tough if you play accurately. Like the putting, this has got a lower 3-putt average than a lot of courses that you're going to run into on tour. It's actually kind of neck and neck with tour average in terms of greens and regulation, which I thought was kind of an interesting stat given how difficult this course can play. But I think there's a couple of things to call out in terms of course layout. And we mentioned this last year, but there is a distinct advantage in terms of DFS showdown. Guys that are starting on the back nine that are going to get the two different birdie streak opportunities with the way the course wraps around versus guys that are starting on the front nine. The front nine is significantly easier, but the back nine having the bear trap and a lot more water, a lot more issue. Your 15, 16, 17 is maybe one of the toughest 3-hole stretches on tour, if not the toughest 3-hole stretch.
And the 3-hole stretch on the front nine is almost as tough as the bear trap. 5, 6, 7, yeah.
Yep.
So bear trap and 5, 6, 7, which doesn't have a name, but it's really nasty because the scoring average is the baby bear trap is almost the exact same scoring average as the bear trap in last year's tournament. So if you think you're going to get by with an easier front nine, you still have a triplicate of really, really brutal holes with all sorts of hazards and tiny landing areas. You just got to be on your game, and that's the trick of this tournament, is figuring out which guys are in good enough form with the right kind of game to match up for this absolutely mammoth challenge of a course. That's the tricky part, because I have guys in my statistical model for DFS that are popping up at every price on the board. All the way from the top to the bottom, there's guys that should do well here that I'm praying that we can trust the numbers on.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's guys that I'm going to call out that I probably have played maybe once in my entire life. But the other thing I was going to mention about this course is being southern coastal course, you can get some weather here. I looked at the weather. It looks like it's going to be 80 all week. It also looks like really there's not too much of an advantage. Thursday afternoon is supposed to be a little windier. Friday afternoon, wind will kick up a little bit. It looks like if you can get the front nine on Friday or on Thursday and start on the back nine early on Friday, that would be the tee time split you're looking for if you're trying to play a tee time advantage.
Yeah, and I'm not about that life. I don't like the extra stress of trying to hone down on all those, but I do want to mention that there's some extremely good values on this board because it is a lower tiered field event. It's not an elevated event, so none of the favorites that used to come here to start the PGA Tour season, there are a lot of guys used to just skip the West Coast swing and start here in Florida at the Honda. That's not the case anymore because money talks, and there's not nearly as much money here as there are in the two previous tournaments and the next two after it. So getting guys that are lesser known that we know about. But let's start with the top tier guys. Sungjae Im, most expensive guy.
You want to wrap back around and get bets at the end, or you want to break out the betting card now?
We already did the no trunk slams intro, so we can end with betting, I guess.
Right. So people that just are here for the bets, you got to hang out. You got to listen to us talk DFS.
They don't mind. DFS is great.
DFS is great. If you aren't playing draft,
we were way heavier on DFS last year, just for the record.
God, we had like no bets last year.
I know.
All right, so top tier. So yeah, kicking off, you got Sungjae, you got Shane Lowry. Those are your two 10K or above guys. If I got to pick one, it's Shane Lowry, but I probably will be skipping both of them in most of my lineups. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's kind of.
I know you love Lowry. I know you don't love eating the chalk on Lowry because he should have won last year. But you mentioned the weather. You had a complete crazy thunderstorm hit on the very, like as soon as the back nine on Sunday started, the clouds exploded, and you had wind and rain. And Lowry did fine, but Sepp Straka played out of his cranium for the last 9 holes and won. That could very well happen. I think Lowry matches this course extremely well, and he's probably, besides Im, the guy with the most track record on tour in this field. He's more recognizable than Im, which is crazy to think because Im is a lot higher rated. I just think that Im matches up on paper for me in DFS, scoring more fantasy points. I think if I'm doing a DFS bet, I'm taking Sungjae Im over Lowry, and I might regret it. But Im scores a ton of fantasy points.
Yeah, I think this is purely a rostership type of situation for me. I projected 23% Shane Lowry right now. That's way too high at that price. And Sungjae is 39.5, which will be over 40 by the time the general public gets into these tournaments. I cannot, in good conscience, play Sungjae Im to the tune of 45% in these big field tournaments for a guy that, like, quite frankly, doesn't win that often. Like, he's probably,
it's been a while.
He's probably a shoe-in for, I mean, he's top 20 for sure, probably top 10, most likely top 5. But I got to play for every 10 lineups I'm playing. I got to play 6 or 7 of them with Sungjae in them just to get leverage on the field. Like, I can't do that. Like, I can't get there.
That's a little high. That's really high. So I agree with you. That for good reason, we can go down to the 9s because the chalk bomb at the top is just nasty in DFS. So we will revisit those two guys in betting for sure. But
100%.
For DFS, it is all about leverage. It's all about getting the right guys in the right places at the right price to build a lineup that's optimal that nobody else is going to have. And if you're banking on Sungjae Im winning this tournament, DFS, you could probably still fade him and win DFS money, because if you nail the other guys that are cheaper, you can win, and maybe Sungjae blows up and misses the cut, and then everybody goes down the drain, and you're still standing.
Well, and
that could very well happen at this course,
and it for sure happens every week too, right? Like, we have guys that are on paper, on strength of field, everything else, that just look like they set up to absolutely run away with it, that missed the cut, or, just kind of shit the bed on one day over the weekend. I mean, you look at what Rory McIlroy's done the first 2 tournaments he's been in so far. Like, he's just done nothing noteworthy, really. But, people, including myself, will continue to pay up for him. The biggest difference is that Rory is not coming in at 45% owned. So
no.
But yeah, that being said, I mean, there's some really good value in the 9s, and I think that I think the appeal of being able to start a roster with 3 guys in the 9K that I feel equally good about. I think that's a better strategy this week. Get a little more average salary going down the board, and just try and play good plays that, and not try to play the leverage game. So, Bo, go ahead and kick off the 9s.
So starting off, Chris Kirk models extremely well here. He's a super duper accurate player. I'm a little concerned with ownership. I want to kind of know what he's going to be at. Chances are it's going to be a lot lower than Im and Lowry. I just by process of elimination, they're not going to be paying up for all 3 of those guys. I wouldn't mind starting my lineup with Chris Kirk if coming in around the 15% level. That would be fine with me. And so Chris Kirk, he models extremely well for me. Let's see, I had him right at the top of my stats, third overall in the field in my model. So I can definitely start my lineup with Chris Kirk pretty confidently, unless he turns around and becomes chalk. But I don't see that happening, especially with the guys around him like Horschel. Horschel's the Florida guy killer, and he's going to pull more chalk than Chris Kirk, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think sooner or later Horschel gets some steam. He does every year down here. Definitely like Chris Kirk better than Billy Horschel.
Yep.
I will say Chris Kirk, there is some proximity, like, ranges that I don't love Chris Kirk, but I think overall package Chris Kirk rates out really well. He's in the
You love his package, huh?
Yeah, I love the total package. But yeah, I think he's in the top 20 in almost every stat that I looked at. So the approach game is probably the part that is the most concerning, but things that the around the green game, bogey avoidance, and good drives in particular is something that I looked at. fairways and regulation, those types of numbers, just trying to get guys that are accurate off the tee. Chris Kirk rates out really well. And to Bo's point, I have him tracking around 14, 15% rostership as well. So
nailed it.
I think, yeah, dude, right on point. So I think Chris Kirk isn't a bad starting off point at all. I probably will be going down to
Minwoo Lee.
I'll talk about Minwoo Lee in a second, but one of the guys that I'm actually pretty high on this week is Matt Kuchar, who
I see it. He plays well here. He's accurate. Well here, he avoids bogeys.
Played well last week.
He avoids bogeys like no other.
Yeah. Matt Kuchar, number 1 out of the sand in this field, number 2 in bogey avoidance, number 9 in good drives gained, good course history.
He's as solid as they come.
Good price.
And in a non-scoring fest, that's where we see Kuchar compete.
Yep, and he's coming in at around 12% ownership. So
that's not bad.
No, it's not for a name. And the reason that he's not drawing a whole lot of attention yet is because of Aaron Wise right below him, who I have zero interest in playing this week.
Way too chalky. I love the Oregon Ducks. Go Ducks, but Aaron Wise, good Lord, a chalk bomb and a half.
It's just not for me this week. And Aaron Wise is streaky at best. And he's just not one of those guys that I trust to not have blow up holes. And this place will absolutely eat you alive if you decide to pop off a couple of blow up holes. So I'm just skipping Aaron Wise, and I'm also that's a good spot to gain a ton of leverage on the rest of the field because Aaron Wise is going to be chalk.
That's fine. Let the field have him. And we have a difference of opinion on Minwoo Lee.
You want me to
you're seeing his chalk at much lower than I'm seeing his chalk.
Yeah, and so so we use different databases. Mine is based off of around 3,500 to 4,000 lineups being generated so far, obviously being a Tuesday. That being said, Minwoo Lee is coming in around 12% rostered in those lineups that have been generated. That doesn't tell you what tournament they've been put in. It doesn't tell you anything other than of that, call it 3,500 lineups that have been generated using the database I use. 12% of them have got him in it. I will say that in my opinion, Minwoo Lee is probably the best value that you're going to find in the 9K range, based on how he's playing right now. If you look at his World Tour stats, this guy is a monster. T13,
97 fantasy points per game.
T2, third place, T4, T12. The guy hasn't finished any deeper than 15th in like 6 months.
And have they played any tough courses though? Because I think this is going to be a big change for him.
So if you go back and look at, he played in quite a few last year. If you look at the Open, the U.S. Open, and I'm trying to think, I think the Tour, there was one other big field event that he played in, and he didn't finish any worse than 30th in any of those. And those are obviously fields that annihilate this field. And on top of that, they were all on extremely tough courses with extremely tough conditions. So, and he's 47th in the world right now. I mean, Minwoo Lee is no bullshit.
Well, I know he's good. He's been good. However, my ownership projection is showing, I saw it as high as 34% earlier today, and it's down to 21% on my database, which is still the second highest chalk behind Sungjae Im in where I'm looking. If he's going to be at 20% or 25%, then you can see me punting him as far away as I can, because he didn't even make the top 25 in my modeling. And you did point out that there was only 4 qualifying events in my model, which is true. But as far as what I'm looking at for this specific course, this specific tournament, he didn't rate out well in those categories. And so he was in the top 50, but I think he was 37th. And 37th in a field like this, I'm not chasing even 12% with that. I'm going to trust my numbers and say if it's a chalk bomb or not, I still don't like him enough to put him in my DFS lineup, especially when I love Kuchar in that range, especially when I love Noren in that range. And I can get down with some Dietrich this week, like you have been for the last few weeks in a row. Thomas Dietrich is one of the most spectacularly underappreciated golfers on the PGA Tour. This guy is a goddamn machine. 2 top 10s. He's 11 out of 11 on cuts, averaging 82.2 fantasy points per week. And nobody's talking about him. What is going on with Thomas Dietrich? He's coming into my model super high, and there's a correlation between this event and the Sony Open. A lot of the same guys do well at the Sony as do well here. Similar length courses, layouts, and your other guy, Kuchar, did well at Sony. A lot of the guys we're about to talk to did really well at Sony. Kurt Kitayama doesn't do well at Sony, but who knows? He's not even here this week. I like Thomas Dietrich a ton this week.
Yeah, I love Dietrich. I mean, and you saw even the lineup that we showed from our head-to-head last week. I am playing a ton of Dietrich. I'm overweight on Dietrich every week, and this week is going to be no exception. And I told you earlier, and I backpedaled, and now I kind of talked myself right back into it. I will start a ton of lineups going Minwoo and Dietrich 1-2, first 2 in. And
I might actually win this week. Thank you.
and I like the fact that I can play Kuchar as well. So having those 3 be my first 3 in,
that's pretty solid.
It's a pretty solid base to work off of. And Thomas Dietrich, I mean, just so you know, we're not blowing smoke. Number 1 in this field over the last 24 rounds in bogey avoidance. He's number 12. He's number 12 in sand save percentage, which is going to be important here. He's 20th in good drives gained, which also going to be very important here. And then he's in the top 30 for the approach metrics we looked at as well. So the guy is actually getting it done, hasn't missed a cut. And he's going to be lower owned than a lot of these guys around him because it's Thomas Dietrich. Well, I'm queuing him up again. I've played him for 5 weeks in a row. I'm not about to leave him on the table this time. So.
Yep, he doesn't miss cuts. He got a runner-up in Butterfield. He didn't play the Sony, but he's like, once we go down the board here, there's lots of guys that did amazing at Sony that really compares well with this course and this tournament. But just that's your locked-in pick of the week for, I think, both of us is Thomas Dietrich at 9,000 flat.
Yeah, I would say that's going to be the one that you and I are going to agree the most on this week for sure. So,
yep. All right.
8K.
8 a little less appealing.
I can kick off 8. I got a couple in there that I like.
Go for it. Okay.
Sepp Straka.
Defending champ.
We know he can play well here. He hasn't been playing like lights out by any means, but approach metrics look good. Proximity looks good. It's a course that he excelled at last year, obviously.
He's a Southeastern guy, even though he's from Poland, is it? He played at Georgia.
I think he's Polish, yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. In transparency, I'm not going to
Austria.
A ton of these high 8 guys because I fully intend to play 3-9 guys. But yeah, Straka would be one that I would look at. Taylor Pendrith would be maybe the other guy in the upper 8s that I would look at as well, who has been playing really well. He's excellent from those long iron approach ranges. He's kind of right in the middle of the field for bogey avoidance, good out of the sand. And at 8,900, I think he's going to go relatively low owned because of some of the names people recognize being in the 9s. So.
Yeah, this is kind of a lost area in the 8s for me because of how I'm building my lineups. I like Straka. Straka's East Coast type golfer. He played at Georgia. He is from Austria, not Poland. So we might make sure we correct that for the record. Very close. Very close. And then you have I'm going to drop down to the high 7s because I'm going to be loading up on the 7s with the way I'm building up through the 9s and 10s. because unfortunately I'm going to have to eat some chalk on Sungjae because I do think he's going to win. What? Yeah. Yeah. Ben Griffin. Cue the music. Ben Griffin is another one of our matched up picks. He was number 1 in my stat model. It wasn't even close. And those guys that have popped up number 1 in my stat model have done extremely well this year. And I didn't believe it on half of them. So that goes to show you. Trust your numbers, trust your gut. And I have a feeling Ben Griffin's going to do fantastic. He's a scoring machine. He's as accurate as they come. That's exactly what you're looking for in a guy who's not going to get very much ownership. He's 7,900, right in that kind of dead area, right below the eights. I love me some Ben Griffin this week. What do you say, Connor?
Yeah, absolutely, right there with you. He's a great TikTok follow. But
what's a TikTok? Is that one of those little mint candies?
I'll show you afterwards. There's some questionable things on there, so we'll put the kids to bed first for you. But Ben Griffin. He's actually 8th in my model when I reran it, which is still excellent at 7,900. Approach game checks out. Bogey avoidance, he's top 5. Great off the tee. The only reason that I'm probably going to have some equal shares Ben Griffin to a couple other guys is just because of proximity metrics and his sand save percentage isn't great. Which is, it's kind of, I've got the sand save percentage and the around the green kind of baked together this week because of the frequency of bunkers showing up. But Ben Griffin, absolutely, I'll be heavy. Like you and I both said, we've been playing him every single week. No reason to jump off now. The 2 guys that are right kind of around that area that I really like, that are going to be a little bit different because Ben Griffin is popular. Robbie Shelton, 7,800. Rated out 5th in my model overall, 3rd in approach, 2nd in the sand and around the green, 8th in the long iron proximity.
We're close. He's 4th in mine.
So
Robbie,
that's a guy that I can pretty much tell you I don't think I have ever rostered in DFS before.
I don't think I ever have either.
So
maybe once. I'll
have him, and then the guy that was surprisingly rated out number 1 in my model. So take this as for what it's worth. But
is it Kodaira?
No, he's number 2.
I knew it.
Joseph Bramlett, number 1
Bramlett,
in my model.
the bomber. Bramlett, the bomber.
And not only that, but he's actually number 15 over the last 24 rounds for good drives gained as well. So not only is he bombing it, but he's accurate. Number 6 in bogey avoidance, excellent from the longer iron approach shots. Number 12, just overall approach from any distance.
He was the guy that was missing like more than half the cuts last year, so he's really made strides. So pay attention because guys with that skill set, when they find their game, they're on the tour for a damn reason. And Bramlett's been showing out this whole season.
And he is one of those dudes that last year too, every now and then he would pop just something, of course, would catch his eye correct. He would just he'd go out and he'd put it all together. Now,
he's got talent. He's got talent.
He is talented. He is very, very up and down. And I think he's proving that he's got a lot more consistency. Like Bo said, I run these for 24 and then 36 rounds. That's my frequency range on this. So just bear in mind, you start stretching out any statistical model outside of 36 rounds, you're going to see Bramlett start to drop off a little bit. But right now,
he was not good last year.
Pretty hot. Hot.
He's been showing up.
So those are my 7.
I'm with you. I'm with you on Bramlett, but he makes me nervous. One guy that does not make either one of us nervous is Hayden Buckley again. I mean, are you playing Hayden Buckley? Yes or no? We can move on from him because we're going to say Hayden Buckley's name every week.
I was just about to say, I mean, if you want to know about Hayden Buckley, you can go watch the last 5 episodes. But yes, I will have Hayden Buckley.
And similarly at 7,400, S.H. Kim, because he rates out really well on this course. And we've been playing him. He's making cuts. He's got a top 10 under his belt this season. He's consistent. And if he's cracking close to top 20 in very large field, tough events, this event with this field, it's kind of an equalizer for a lot of these guys that are playing really well that haven't been getting enough recognition. Like, how many people had heard of Sepp Straka, unless they're a Georgia golf fan, before last year, where he just completely tore apart the back nine on Sunday to beat Shane Lowry, who most people have heard of from the Ryder Cup days, at least. And so, like, this is the kind of tournament where you get a hot golfer that's just not getting paid. Nobody's paying attention to him. SH Kim is playing really, really well this year. And I think that if you want to throw a top 10 or top 20 bet on him, as well as play him in DFS at 7,400, I'm doing it. All the cool kids are playing SH Kim this week.
The cooler kids.
The coolest.
Maybe
not Conor. Conor's not a huge SH Kim fan.
I'm not a huge SH Kim guy, but I can't. You can't dispute it. He is playing well, and I do think he fits in rosters pretty nicely.
He does.
Will Gordon is probably a fade that I'm going to have in here. This is there's more people talking about him being a positive play than a negative play, but
I think this course is going to eat him alive.
I think it is too. And the other thing too is he plays exponentially worse in worse conditions. So depending on what he's
Let's
not
throw him on a top 5 most difficult course on the tour. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I did want to throw that one out there, because I think if people listen to this and listen to other shows, I think Will Gordon's going to be somebody that you're going to hear talk about kind of favorably throughout the week. And I like him, and I'm going to be playing more and more of him. He bombs the ball. He is accurate off the tee. Good approach game. Actually, a pretty good putter too. Like, there's not a whole lot to say negative about the guy, other than he is a little streaky, and like I said, not a good win player, and favors kind of a medium difficulty course. Definitely, this is not what I would consider to be a good setup for Will Gordon.
You have anybody low 7s, below 7? We don't need to go that deep in a tournament like this usually.
Below 7, I did have a couple. Eric Cole.
I knew you were gonna say that. Damn it! Gross.
And
I'm not playing Eric Cole, by the way.
I am hoping I don't have to get down into the 6s. But Eric Cole,
right? That's what I was trying to get you to say. Is that this is the type of tournament where if you're down in 6s, you might be on the wrong. Took a wrong turn at Albuquerque.
I don't hate Hubbard. I could play some Hubbard if I had to at 7.
We root for Hubbard, but
not my favorite play. No, in seriousness. So Satoshi Kodaira, number 2 in my model. If I'm sub 7, I'll trust my numbers, because I don't have a great feel for any of these guys. But yeah, there's a couple of college kids in here that I would throw a couple of very deep bombs at. If you're
Akshay Bhatia.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Andrew Kozan, who's the dead min, also another guy that actually rates out pretty well, 36 in my model, 15th overall in approach.
So Tashi at 67 is just teasing us because he's so highly rated for accuracy. Like, he does not do well on long courses, but on these types of courses where you have forced landing areas and accuracy is everything, he's like a really, really, really poor man's Matt Kuchar.
Which one? Who is this?
Kodaira.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the problem, the only thing I just don't get Kodaira right. Like, that's the problem. Like, he rates out for me good every now and then, and I try and play him, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this makes sense. But if I'm sub 7, I will have some Kodaira, because he rates out very, very well over the last 24 rounds. So
yep. All right, let's see if we got some bets that are a little different here. Let's do some club twirling. We're putting real money on the line, guys. Real money on the bets. This is the first week of the season that I'm actually betting an outright favorite here. Sungjae Im is 10-1. I think that's just fine. I was probably going to go as cheap as 8-1 for him. I was hoping to see him at 12-1. I think there are some books out there where you can get Sungjae at 12-1, but most of where I'm seeing him, especially DK Sportsbooks, 10-1. I think that's a perfect number for him, especially with how much more highly rated he is than any other golfer in this field. I don't mind taking a shot on a favorite, especially at 10-1. It's not John Rahm 6.5-1. That's for sure. What do you think, Connor? Are you betting Sungjae Im?
I would at 10-1. Yeah, I would. I like Sungjae. I like Shane Lowry at I'm showing him plus 1,600.
That's nice.
Yeah, and that's DK as well. So yeah, I think this is a week where you probably should bet at least a fair amount on the favorites, because I think they're going to do well. I really genuinely do believe plus 2,800 for Minwoo Lee is a steal, because
here he goes again with Minwoo Lee.
I'm telling you, man, he's very, 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 very good. And if you go and look at his stats over the last 2 seasons, like, this is a guy that competes. And plus 2,800, he has every bit the skill set of the 2 favorites. So it's a good number.
But does he match up with the course well? I think he does.
I think that he does.
Agree to disagree. I'm gonna go down all the way from Im to Dietrich at 35-1.
Love that.
I'm also gonna pair that with a top 10 at plus 360. Dietrich just lines up so well with this course. Runner-up finish in Bermuda. Icing on the cake is he matches up with the 5th in the field in the model. Dietrich is just too good. He's playing too well for 35-1. That's just, for me, that's insane. I had him as pegged as a 20-1 type pick, and if I'm getting him at nearly twice the odds, that's free money, because I think Dietrich can definitely win this tournament.
Yeah, that you beat me to the punch on that one, and that's across the board. DFS.
Well, I went straight from the favorite to the 35-1, so that was.
And that number is holding too. I love Dietrich too. That's one that I would definitely be all over. And then the one that has two that, if we go down a little bit farther, that have both slid from where they opened at, because they both were 60s when they opened, is Ben Griffin and Joseph Bramlett. Both have already slid down to 50-1.
I got Griffin at 50.
So I would, if you believe in our numbers, or you have interest in trying to get a T5, T10 on those guys, I would try and bet them sooner.
5-1 on a T10 for Griffin.
I like that.
That's excellent. 50-1 outright, 5-1 on top 10. I actually, instead of Bramlett, I'm doing Buckley at 50-1, just as the outright flyer. I have a feeling that Buckley he's just hot right now, and I like his game. Very, very well rated on my model, and he finished runner-up at the Sony behind Siwoo. He had a big 54 lead over Siwoo, and Siwoo just came on like a firestorm on Sunday to win that and take it from Buckley. And again, I'll say it, this tournament and Wiley at the Sony Open are very closely correlated when it comes to metrics. And so if you want to say, hey, if there's an edge to be had, look at the Sony Open over the last couple of years, especially this year, with the recent form and having a similarly laid out course with a similar type field. Hayden Buckley was supposed to win that tournament, but Siwoo just stole it from him. And then I'm going to end it right with SH Kim. I'm doing the whole shebang. Outright 60-1, top 10 12-1, and top 20 even is 2.5-1. Plus 250 for a top 20 for SH Kim the way he's playing. I'll take my money now.
Yeah, I'd load that up. Those are good numbers. Normally when we take a really deep shot, it's kind of bullshit. It's just kind of one of those, I'm going to throw $5.
Not this week. This week.
But Kadira at 250-1.
Holy smokes. Dude. I didn't even scroll that far.
But Kadira is somebody who has won on tour before. Like Kadira, it statistically is looking like he's trending in the right direction. It's a proven winner. He's got the tools. Like, this is absolutely a tournament that's Satoshi Kodaira could compete in. He's got, like I said, he's got a very similar skill set to the favorites. 250 to 1.
Yeah. The poverty Kuchar.
I mean, statistically, there's not a whole lot that separates the 250 to 1 versus the 35 to 1s that we're talking about up near the top. So I don't know. I feel fairly confident being able to bet a T10, bet a T5 on it. But
I'm interested in the T20 odds on that, because if he's 250 outright, he's got to be at least 10 to 1 for a top 20.
I don't know if I can reload it fast enough to tell you, but I'll try.
I'm going to try to race you here.
T20.
Come on, Wi-Fi, baby.
T20. Come
I think
on.
you're ahead of me here. Keep
Scrolling.
scrolling. Yeah, he's down at the bottom.
Plus 600.
Okay.
For a T20.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, 6 to 1 to get a T20 on a random guy that's modeling well. I mean, throw some shekels on him. Who knows?
I mean, like I said, I wouldn't mortgage your house, but when you're talking 250 to 1, throw $5 at it on the off chance that the numbers are right. I mean, that's a pretty good payday on a $5 bet.
Smack it. All right. I mean, you got anything else? Is there any other comments you'd like to make?
No, you look very nice this evening.
Yeah, I didn't wear a hat because I just got off work and my hair is wild. Yeah, but I got whiskey in my belly. I'm very happy. How about you? You feeling good? You look fine. You got the pink hat.
Feeling great. My wife talked me in. I've never made this before in my life. Talked me into making tater tot hot dish.
I make that at least every couple weeks.
I refused, categorically refused, but I made it.
Yeah, that was a mistake. Because that shit's good.
Delicious. So I got a belly full of that. I got a little bit of whiskey circulating on top of that, and as gross as this tournament is, I feel like I've got some good plays to go and tinker with. Yeah. So
I feel like this is a bankroll building week because there's not many that are going to be sharp enough to really go at this tournament the same way they have been in the last couple of weeks. And we're going head first. We're saying, hey, we got the tools here. We got some numbers. We got all the things that you're looking for to win your bets and to cash at DFS. We do thank you all for tuning in. This is an in-between media production of the 19th Hole Live. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Tuesday night for the continuation of the Florida Swing, because we're going right back to elevated events.
Next week's going to be fun.
Yep.